The senior executive service was a sense was trying to be the answer to the problem of how bad the civil service had gotten in the 1970s. And so there's a great book by political scientist Hugh Hecklow called A Government of Strangers that looked at the fact that there wasn't in the US civil service, like there was in a lot of other countries, this kind of breed of elite civil servants who crossed different departments, who could be transferred from a health department to a security department to a defense department, and would know the general rungs of the government, but would be sort of skilled in the nature of budgets and accounting and legal processes and so forth. And the senior executive service was supposed to answer to that need. It didn't quite work out like that. That service still does have some interesting aspects. It's still a little more flexible on pay. You still can actually reward senior executive civil servants a little more for doing a good job than you can your typical federal employee, where it's just a step system. The longer you sit in your desk, the more you get paid, and that's pretty much a 1-to-1 correlation. So the senior executive service is, in some sense, it was a promising idea that just never got implemented in practice, and that went for a lot of that 1978 Civil Service Reform Act that you mentioned that came out of Jimmy Carter's presidency. That was supposed to be taking care of all of these problems that everybody admitted had arisen in the civil service. Too slow to fire, too difficult to move people around, too difficult to hire. And what that actually did is, because the unions pretty much got a hold of it, the federal employee unions, they turned into the opposite of what a lot of the people pushing that act thought it should be. And we now have some oral histories, some interviews with people who worked on that. And they admitted that, yeah, the public rhetoric at the time was, oh, it's impossible to fire people. You have to go all through this rigmarole and this intense process, and we're reforming that in this act. And then the people actually working in the act who knew the jot and tittle about the actual words in it said that was all crap. Like, we knew that's not what the act was doing. That's what the rhetoric was about the act. But we knew this was actually doing, most importantly, actually making sure the federal employee unions had a permanent place in the federal government. Before then, federal employee unions really didn't have legal negotiating authority. But that act was the first one that set up the Federal Labor Relations Authority, the first time you have this government body that's supposed to mediate between the taxpayer and the government and these unions, and actually gave these government unions a say in what were known as conditions of employment. So that act is really unfortunate in a lot of levels, because Jimmy Carter himself recognized the problems. You had a lot of people willing to make reforms, but they kind of got hoodwinked by these other people who knew the game better and actually turned the act into the opposite of what it was supposed to be.